Episode 3: The Onset of a Killing Spree. Welcome back to our 6-part series on the life of Ted Bundy. In our previous episodes, we explored Ted's troubled childhood, his college years, and the early signs of the darkness that would eventually lead him down a path of unimaginable horror. Today, in Episode 3, we will delve into the beginning of Ted Bundy's killing spree, a period of terror that would forever mark him as one of history's most notorious serial killers. By 1974, Ted Bundy had cultivated an image of a charming, intelligent, and ambitious young man. But beneath this carefully crafted facade, the darkness within him was ready to break free. It was in January of that year that Ted Bundy began his first known string of murders, a spree that would shock the nation and leave investigators baffled for years. Ted's first known victim was 21-year-old Lynda Ann Healy, a University of Washington student who, like many of Bundy's later victims, was a young woman with long, dark hair parted in the middle. On the night of January 31, 1974, Lynda went to bed in the basement apartment she shared with friends. The next morning, she was gone, vanished without a trace. Her bed was made, and a bloody nightgown was found in her room, but there were no signs of a struggle. Lynda's disappearance marked the beginning of Ted Bundy's reign of terror. Over the next few months, more young women began to disappear under similar circumstances. On March 12, 1974, 19-year-old Donna Gail Manson, a student at Evergreen State College, vanished while walking to a concert on campus. Then, on April 17th, Susan Runcourt, another college student, disappeared after attending a meeting at Central Washington State College. The pattern was becoming clear. All the victims were young women with similar physical characteristics, and all had vanished without a trace. But it wasn't just the disappearances that were alarming, it was the audacity with which Bundy committed his crimes. He often lured his victims in broad daylight, using his charm and good looks to gain their trust. He would sometimes feign injury, wearing a cast or sling, and ask for help carrying something to his car. Once the victim was close enough, he would strike, often with a blunt object, before abducting them in his Volkswagen Beetle. Bundy's ability to blend in, to appear harmless and trustworthy, made him all the more dangerous. Ted Bundy's crimes during this period were marked by a chilling level of planning and calculation. He carefully selected his victims, stalked them, and then struck with precision. Once he had subdued them, he would take them to a secluded location, often in the woods, where he would carry out his horrific acts. Bundy later admitted to strangling many of his victims, but he also engaged in acts of necrophilia and kept some of the bodies for days, revisiting them until decomposition made it impossible. As the number of disappearances grew, fear spread throughout the Pacific Northwest. Women were warned not to go out alone, especially at night, and to be cautious of strangers. But despite the increasing fear and the efforts of law enforcement, Bundy continued to elude capture. His ability to move between states, combined with a lack of centralized databases at the time, allowed him to stay one step ahead of investigators. One of the most brazen of Bundy's early crimes occurred on July 14, 1974, at Lake Sammamish State Park in Washington. On that sunny summer day, Bundy abducted not one, but two young women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, in broad daylight and in front of thousands of people. Bundy approached his victims by introducing himself as Ted, asking for help with a sailboat he claimed to be loading onto his car. Witnesses later reported seeing him with both women, but no one realized the danger until it was too late. Their bodies were later found in a wooded area on Taylor Mountain. This bold attack was a turning point in the investigation. For the first time, Witnesses were able to provide a detailed description of the suspect, as well as his car. The name Ted and the image of a tan Volkswagen Beetle became crucial pieces of the puzzle. Despite this, Bundy remained elusive, continuing his spree of terror. The summer of 1974 marked the height of Bundy's killing spree in the Pacific Northwest. As the body count grew, so did the fear and confusion surrounding the case. Authorities were desperate to find the man responsible, but Bundy's ability to blend in and his meticulous planning made him a ghost predator who struck without warning and left little evidence behind. Ted Bundy's early murders were not just acts of violence. They were carefully orchestrated performances that allowed him to exercise his need for control and domination. Each abduction, each murder, was a way for Bundy to assert his power, to feel superior in a world where he often felt inadequate and rejected. As we conclude this episode, we're left with the terrifying realization that Ted Bundy's killing spree was just beginning. Despite the mounting evidence and growing public awareness, Bundy remained at large, his insatiable need for violence driving him to continue his horrific acts. In our next episode, we will explore how Ted Bundy extended his killing spree beyond the Pacific Northwest, crossing state lines and leaving a trail of terror in his wake. We'll also look at how close authorities came to catching him and how he managed to slip through their fingers. Thank you for joining me in this episode of our series on Ted Bundy. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe and leave a review. Your support helps us continue to bring you in-depth explorations of history's most infamous figures. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.